All right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us all the way from St. Paul, Minnesota, Chris Castino.
Great to be here.
Great
And we're so excited to have you here. And it looks like Joni has joined the party right on time, having some tea and chilling in the Twin Cities. And
Excellent.
Alan joining us martini time. All right,
Ooh,
Alan.
all right. You're
And
going for it.
Connie joining us from Richfield.
Hey, Connie.
And well, I don't know about you, Tony, but now that I'm back from my travels last week in California, where I was soaking up the sunshine. Last week, I think I had an In-N-Out burger soda
Ooh, nice.
for my happy hour. But today I'm back in Minnesota, so Castle Danger, the
Oh,
double
nice.
chocolate George Hunter Stout for
Oh,
this
delicious.
nice winter day to warm myself up. And what are you drinking,
Excellent.
Tony?
Well, I've got Black Box's finest here.
Very familiar.
Red wine, but just something to warm me up here on this Friday afternoon. How about you, Chris? Are you imbibing anything on this Friday happy hour?
My imbibing days are over. I imbibed enough for 2 lifetimes of imbibement, so I've retired
Excellent.
Excellent.
from that.
Well,
I have a my wife bought this aluminum cup from
Nice.
from the good people at Ball,
All right.
and I was drinking some nice St. Paul tap water in that,
Ooh,
Excellent.
that's the best.
getting all
I grew
the
up on that
minerals
stuff.
and vitamins that a growing old man deserves to have.
Got plenty of fluoride to keep your teeth protected.
It's not working.
Well, it looks like Lynn's joining us from Greenville, South Carolina,
Hey,
and
Lynn.
Wow.
Chris from Savage with a beer, and Anne still at school for grading day. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Anne, but I'm glad you're able to tune in and we can give you some entertainment while you grade papers. And no matter where you are, what you're up to on this Friday, we're glad you've joined us. This is the show where we invite some of our favorite artists to revisit old records with us and talk about the songs. And we want you to be involved in the conversation. So throw in your comments or questions as we go, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. And we are very excited about today's show with Chris. And for folks who might not be familiar with you or your music, Chris, why don't you give us a little background of where you grew up and how you fell into making music? And in particular, maybe what led up to this record we're going to talk about today.
Hey, sure. Thanks. Yeah, my name is Chris Castino. I'm from Minnesota. Born in Minneapolis, and in all my years here, I've made the long journey across the Mississippi River, and I find myself now in the land they call St. Paul, and
Yes.
with all of its wonders and
And mineral water. Yeah.
Yes, and
The
lots
mineral
of
water.
ghosts, lots of ghosts in
Don't
St.
tell
Paul.
people about the mineral water because they're going to start bottling it. People are going to be coming in from South Carolina when they're done grading their papers with their giant jugs, and there's just not enough to go around. I'm sorry. I'm going to be in there elbowing people out of the way. Yeah, St. Paul is the best city in the world. I'm glad I did move over here. We'll talk about music here too. We'll get to that. But we live pretty close to the Minnesota State Fairgrounds, which I'm sure you guys know all about. I'm sure you've
Absolutely.
spent a moment or two at the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
But fairgrounds is been, I guess, in my adult life, I've seen so much good music there, including Anthony, many times, right? And my kids and I drove through the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds is in the middle of the city, and it's open. It's open all year. It's like this little town, and it's like a ghost town, except for during the 2 weeks of the Minnesota State Fair, which happens at the end of August through Labor Day. 12 days of fun. And the rest of the time, the fairgrounds are just shuttered. but it's really cool. There's nobody there. I mean, there's like 100,000 people there every day during the actual running of the fair, and then there's nobody there, and then occasionally there's a horse show or an antique fair or some gymnastics meet. And maybe they have
cars, right?
Oh, classic cars.
Classic cars.
Love that one so much. Yep, that one. And maybe there's a random mini donut stand open, for a while they were doing the like a winter event during COVID. They were doing that winter event. You could drive through there. These beautiful lighting and holiday lighting installments. It was way too expensive, but we did it anyway. And then we went through, and at the end, then you get to spend more money on fair food. But oh my God, it's so glorious! It was
for
just
people who
wonderful.
are out of state. Like, you might not like. This is not a small state fair. This is a really large. Like Chris said, it's in the middle of the city, but it like takes up half of the city. It's huge.
I heard that it's the second biggest state fair in the country, like after Texas or something. That was what I had heard at one point.
Our state fair is a great state fair, as the song goes. That was there was a Broadway musical called State Fair. I grew up in a house that liked musical theater quite a bit.
Nice.
So I heard the State Fair song quite a bit. That was about the Iowa State Fair.
Oh, nice.
And if there's anyone from Iowa listening, I'm sure they'll be ready to throw down if you say that Minnesota is the best state fair around.
Well, I am married to a Minnesotan. I'm married to a Minnesotan, to an Iowan. And
risque.
And I think he would agree, though, that the Minnesota State Fair is more robust.
Oh no, he can never go back now, can he?
I won't say his name. Yeah, they won't let him back in the state.
Not. They'll be looking for him.
Exactly.
I think you sent us a picture of you here at the Great Minnesota Get Together during one of those off-season times. So
nice.
That's in front of the grandstand.
Yeah, my daughter goes. Well, anyway, I won't talk about my family too much, but there's this really amazing plant sale that happens too in the late spring there too. So I just want to plug the Friends School of Minnesota, who puts on this amazing
plant sale. Yeah.
For those who are local, it's the amount and diversity of the plants that you can get there is second to none. I mean, it really is. They have things you've never heard of. Just to walk through it and say the Latin, names of these plants is a treat. And then you can buy all these things, and you bring your little radio, what do you call it, cart thing, radio flyer, and you load it up, and there you go. We're ready for the good time, the good planting season of Minnesota. Ready to go. So like I was saying,
your musical background includes
plant sale.
From Minnesota. I love Minnesota. I do. The other great thing about the state fair, and I have had the opportunity to play at the fair with my band, the Big Woo. The Big Woo is a band that started when I was in college at St. Olaf, which is a real place. People from out of Minnesota will say, "Is that from the Golden Girls?" And because
a great college.
Is it? Oh no, is it Rose? Who's Betty White's character? I can't remember.
Yeah, Rose.
Is it Rose?
Mm-hmm.
Because Rose came from the town of St. Olaf.
Oh, all right.
in Minnesota.
That's
and when I was there,
Golden Girls trivia here.
Yeah,
I love this. All right.
Yeah, I got tons of it. So
Nice.
if we need something to talk about later. So yeah, actually, when I was at St. Olaf, they brought in Betty White. It was quite the to-do.
Nice.
She showed up on campus, and she was uh, and she was adorned with, some kind of lays were wrapped around her neck, and music was played, and yeah. So we started this band at St. Olaf called the Big Woo, with my good friend drummer Terry Vandy Walker, guitarist Jason Flatiger, and another great friend Nathan Eklund, and some other people too. And then we can't remember their names, but I think there were some other people in the band. But we played on campus, and I decided right there that college was not going to be for me. Studying was not that exciting. I realized that, growing up, like I said, there was a lot of music, musical theater, and my dad was a singer. My mom was a singer too. They were in a nightclub act. So
Oh, cool.
for folks that don't know, in Minneapolis in the 60s, there were a lot of nightclubs, and there was one called the Steamboat Inn, the Edgewater Inn, which I think the Edgewater was on like Lowry and University right over there.
Right.
There was a really popular nightclub there, and my parents met. My dad was from Chicago, and he came up and met my mom, and they were in a singing group, and they were a nightclub act, and they did pop tunes from the 60s and some musical theater stuff, and then they went on to do a little bit of performing at the Dinner Theater in Chanhassen. So anyway, there was just, I just remember being a little tiny kid, and in our basement there was a piano, and they would be rehearsing in the basement, and that was a foundational experience, being around people singing and working through music and having a good time and imbibing, I'm sure. And so anyway, I started playing guitar, I started playing violin and guitar and stuff. But once I got to college, once I got into that band, I realized that my academic endeavors were sure to fail. And so, the path was laid out before me. And the Big Woo, when we all graduated, we continued to play. We added a bass player from Northfield, which is the town. He was a townie when we were at the school, and Andy Miller, and he became our bass player. And then once we started playing up in Minneapolis, at some venues like the Five Corners Saloon and O'Gara's Garage, the Keller Bar at Gastov's, the Terminal Bar.
Oh yeah.
All these places. This is where we played when we were starting out, and we added an incredible keyboard player named Al Oikeri, who's from up north. He's a Finn. Great, incredible piano player. So that became the nucleus, and we were playing a lot of Grateful Dead covers, and so a lot of the impetus was to continue down that jam rock, or the Grateful Dead inspired path. And when we all finally got out of school, I did graduate, and then once we got up to Minneapolis and decided we should try to do this, Jerry Garcia died in 1995, and we went to a vigil, and there was the entire community of Twin Cities Deadheads were there, and we just got onto a stage and just started playing music. And we had been playing Dead covers for a while, and it started our journey. I mean, people started to understand who we were, and then I started writing tunes, and I started writing tunes because no one else was writing tunes for our band. So it was just like,
Good reason.
okay. That's kind of, and in fact, that is kind of how my music career started. Like in high school, they needed a bass player. I remember. I said, okay, I'll play bass. Sometimes you just have to, there's a gap, there's a need, and that's really how our lives go, right? You know, we don't know. There's an opportunity that presents itself, and this needs to get done. I think of a lot of people like that. You know, they just, you end up in a career, and you're like, well, how did that happen? Well, there was something opened up, and I'm like, well, I'll fill in, I'll do that, and then 15 years later or whatever it is, that's what you do. So that's kind of like how I feel about songwriting. Is that I did it because no one else was going to do it, and the journey started for me. Like
Well,
that.
I would love to dig into some of that music since folks are anxious to hear some tunes. And I'm wondering if you could.
I could just talk more. Are you sure?
Well, we're going to talk more. Don't worry.
Okay.
But I want to give folks a taste of this album that we're going to be revisiting today, which is called Brazil. It came out in 2020, and this first song you picked to feature from the album is called Duluth. Is there anything you want to say about it before we dive in and get talking more about your songwriting?
It has nothing to do with Duluth. But Duluth is a great name. It's evocative. This one, I guess to set it up, this has to do. I mentioned, because I kind of mentioned that I don't drink anymore, or right when we started off. So this kind of touches on when people like myself who have stopped using drugs and alcohol, you have a chance to kind of reflect on that, and that's a little bit what this song is about. And I've never really addressed it before writing this song, so there it is. I'm putting it out there.
Very cool. Well, all right, let's give it a listen. This is Chris Castino with Duluth here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I never knew that you looked out for me. I was so blind I couldn't see. So far away with my eyes on the flame. I'm here and I'm there, I'm gone but I stay. Please God, get my face. Turn me into stairs. Climb above desire and fear. Stuck in a loop with a new kind of blues. Nothing that God-fearing people would choose. She gives me a choice, table or booth. Me or the drugs, jail or Duluth. Jail or Duluth. Just me and you on our way to the sea. Everything moves just like a dream. dive in the waves and everything's loud. The shape of the sun I see through a cloud. Please God damn my face, turn me into stairs, climb above desire and fears. I never knew that you looked out for me. I was so blind I couldn't see. I couldn't see.
All right. Chris Castino with Duluth from his 2020 album Brazil, which we are revisiting today on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Chris joining us live from St. Paul. And what a beautiful, beautiful tune. And earlier you were talking about playing with the Big Woo, which is a band that a lot of folks know. And some folks throwing in the comments talking about where they first saw you play and Bozeman and all over the place. But I'd love to know a little bit about the transition. Obviously, you were writing songs for the Big Woo, as you talked about, but what was the transition like to start really recording your own songs in a solo vein?
Well, I love being an ensemble player. I feel so like strengthened and comforted by the guys in the band. It's a real comfortable, happy place for me. So writing, doing solo stuff is not necessarily like the most comfortable thing for me, but it is essential. Like I can't. I noticed that there's times when there's certain songs that need to happen, and I need to say some things, and I don't think these songs, like if people, there's people that know who the Big Woo is. It's a rock band, and we we play loud, and not all of our songs are rock tunes, because we do come from that Grateful Dead mold, if you will, where essentially, I mean, the beautiful thing about the Grateful Dead was their ability to incorporate a bunch of American styles of music together. So you'll hear pieces of folk and country and bluegrass and jazz in the Grateful Dead. But it's a great place to launch from, to write music. But yeah, like the album Brazil was just some songs that I needed to write, and I thought doing it separate from the Big Woo was probably going to be the right thing to do for me, and so I embarked on that. It really took me quite a while to step away from the band. That band, like I said, it has been my entire adult existence. I started in the Big Woo when I met the guys when I was 18 years old. We played our first gig when I was 19 years old, and we still play. So it's there's a lot of my identity wrapped up in that, but definitely a need to write some different kinds of music. And I guess the freedom to do that was exciting. And I want to do more. So I actually booked some studio time, and I will be recording another record as well.
Awesome.
Nice.
And there's just we have an upcoming show, a bluegrass show, to talk about. Like, bluegrass music is something that's been in my life for a really long time too. So my life as a musician is going in a direction that is really where my heart is, and so I'm glad. I'm probably never gonna make enough money going with my heart, but I'm okay with that. I'm gonna continue to I just think that there's Um, there's a lot of music in the world, and for me, there's some songs that are just um, that are so important to me. There's some music and art forms in general, but there's some music that is just that that is far too important to me, and I want to try to make some music like that. I want to write songs that are important to people. And this album, Brazil, was my first opportunity to try to do that. Essentially, to try to be a real songwriter. I hate to say that because, and I do, because the Big Woo was, my first songs that I wrote with the Big Woo were copies. They were copies of Hunter Garcia tunes. And maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself because people love those songs, and I love those songs, and we still play those songs. But, and I also think, I'm sure you guys would totally agree when it comes to writing. Yeah, you write as homage first to the things that affected you, that you love, and it comes right through. It's kind of there's no shame in it. It's like, this is, hey, listen to this. I know it sounds like this because that's what I love.
It's iterative, like you're kind of continuing that, passing it down. It's like a great oral tradition, and
you feel part of it.
Yeah. I used to struggle with this idea that, like, well, it's already been said or it's already been done. But, truth be told, maybe every song's already been written, and, it just needs to be retold every generation, to really get it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was noticing in the song we just heard was just sort of this is probably speaking to what you were talking about, an opportunity for you to kind of do something different, is just sort of the gentleness of that song really came forth in a way that you probably don't get the opportunity to do quite with the Big Woo being a bigger rock band. But we got a question from someone actually asking about putting together the musicians for this recording session. I'd love to know who played on the album in general, and maybe in that song in particular.
Yeah. On that song, features one of my favorite people and musicians and favorite songwriters, Jake Illica, who's Winona. I think he's a Winona guy, but he lives up here. I've always just admired him so much, his abilities. So he's playing guitar on that. JT Bates is playing drums. Yeah, he has such a great feel for music like that.
Yeah.
He can play. Nobody can play down tempo as well, in my opinion, as JT. There's some really good other drummers too in town, but yeah. And this is a fun thing that I recorded it with a guy named Dylan Now, who's
I know Dylan.
Dylan.
Yeah.
His daughter plays cello on this track.
I was going to ask. I thought I heard some
Lydia.
Wow.
Yeah, Lydia. And I think back then she was 13.
Wow.
Amazing.
But she's a serious musician. She really is a good player. So yep. So she's on there playing cello.
Nice.
And Chad Whitaker, a good friend of mine, is playing bass on a lot of this record. Chad and I do a lot of things together, a lot of fun projects together. He plays in a band called the Kung Fu Hippies, and he's just one of those great people and musicians who can do it all and always shows up with the right attitude. So, nice. And as we all know, that goes a long way. Yeah. Plus, he's an incredible player. So, it was great to work with him.
Yeah,
great cast and great sounding recording. By the way,
Yeah.
Way to go for everybody involved. Did you record it at Dylan's studio, or where did this go down?
Yeah, we did it at his studio, which is Yeah, it's a great spot. Not too far from me. Um, I think, in fact, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to record. I recorded a bluegrass record since then, with Ryan Young, from Trampled by Turtles at his place. But I think for my next record, I know because I already booked the studio time. But Dylan and I are going to be
Secret's
working
out.
together.
Oh,
Nice.
that's great.
Nice. Well,
Well,
Pete
I
said,
wanted to I mention a few more people that are on the
Mhm.
record, just
Oh, yeah,
because
please.
Nathan Eklund, who's the original keyboard player for the Big Woo, who's he's such a master with slow songs and songs. He's such an emotional player. He's playing piano on stuff. Dylan himself plays pedal steel on a tune, and one of the tunes that we added late called Reckless, he's on that. Toby Marshall is an incredible B3 player who plays with the Greg Koch trio. He's on keyboards. Greg Hall from Lacrosse plays slide guitar on a tune. Jimmy Rogers, super cool guy, plays bass on a couple songs. Doug Christensen plays drums on a couple tunes, and I think he plays a little bit of percussion. Nicholas David sings with me, and Jill Michelson. That trio, we sing on the tunes that have the cool 3-part harmonies. And I think I got everybody. Thank you for. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
some shout out.
Oh, for
Great.
sure.
What a great
And
cast.
Pete says Brazil is widely underappreciated. That's not exactly right. Anyone who hears it appreciates it wildly. More folks should hear it, and I agree. And we're going to hear more of it in just a sec. We're going to hear another track, but we do want to mention that this album is for sale. And if you want to fund some of those authentic songs, earlier Chris was talking about how he's maybe not going to have a crazy successful career recording his songs, but I disagree. So if you want to throw some money in his coffers to fund that next record, you can go to his website and buy the album and check out his other recordings as well. But right now, let's dig into another song. In fact, someone actually was just mentioning Nate Eklund in this song that we're going to hear. Lior, and was asking what it was like to record with Nate Eklund back in the band. So maybe you want to answer that question before we head into the song.
What was it like? Well, Nate and I were college roommates for our junior year at Donna St. Olaf, and he's a very good old friend, and it was great to see him. You know how it goes. I mean, sometimes the people you love, you don't see them as often because of life. So to get to hang out with him and to make music with him again was really special. Yeah. He plays great on this. I feel like he's buried. His piano parts got even too buried because they're so gorgeous.
Well, crank it up then,
That's my
folks.
Yeah. Crank it up. It's right.
Yeah, let's give it a listen. This is Chris Castino with Lior here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I need you right now, Lior. I've been feeling like running since I saw the door. Where would I go from this high desert town that I haven't been to before? I've been thinking of floating away, but how does a river that moves always stay? And how does a heart that is lost find its way? I just want to die at your door. I need you right now, Lior. Maybe you'll come back in spring Maybe your heat will come melt everything. Water will come rushing and flood the whole town. And high above, songbirds will soar. Pictures and letters from you never did serve but to make me feel blue. Liquor and smoke didn't help me at all, just led me to being untrue, led me away from your shore. Longing and love are the same, like a grave with no name. Love is the game, and time is the score. I was winning, but that was before. I need you right now, Leor. I've been thinking about running since I saw the door. Where would I go from this high desert town that I haven't been to before?
All right. Chris Castino with Leor here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, and from his 2020 release, Brazil, which we are revisiting today with Chris joining us from St. Paul. And folks, loving that song, Chris. Pastor Tim, love this song. And bunch of folks, Mike saying, thanks for some of the best feelings I've ever had, Chris. And yeah, really lovely sounding stuff. And if you like what you hear, you can throw something in that tip jar. You can also buy the album if you want a physical copy, or you can find it on the digital places. But check out the high-res files because it sounds pretty good in our before it goes through the YouTube filters. So you can check it out. And
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, like somebody mentioned earlier, that this album has been underappreciated. And I couldn't help but see when you uploaded the poster for the release that the release date was Saturday, March 21st, 2020. And holy cow, I imagine this did not quite go off as planned. Before I want to hear a story there, but I also want to just reiterate that clearly this album came out at a time when he wasn't able to tour and stuff, and we're so happy to shine a light on it today. So you should hop on over to chriscastino.com and pick up a copy because you're gonna love it.
yeah.
So Chris, I got to ask, what happened there?
Oh man, thank you. Thanks for yeah, I think that it's apropos to pick the album and have an opportunity to play some tunes. Yeah, it was one of those let's see, I think the world stopped about 3 days before our CD or album release party.
Yeah, how heartbreaking.
So we canceled that, and it was a casualty perhaps of a pandemic, but there's something about it. It was helpful for me because I I'm pretty proud of some of the songs on here, and I'm happy that that I was able to dig them out from deep and make them. And it proves to me though that if you really are, if you're really writing songs that are true to you, and that you care about, and you make a good record, that there's so much satisfaction just in that itself. I mean, there's a lot to be proud of just by making, challenging yourself, trying to draw more out as an artist, and having it be good, and having it sound good. Yeah, I mean, there was enough there so that I didn't feel crushed by the fact that it's just varied.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Riemenschneider was really helpful, and he liked it and highlighted it as like one of the best records of the first half of 2020. So that was kind of neat.
Nice.
But
And for those of you who don't know, Chris Riemenschneider is a local music writer here at this Minneapolis paper, the Star Tribune. And really, really great. Joe, by the way, was asking about the album cover. He said, I'm late to the party. Did you talk about the album cover? And we haven't. And I was actually going to ask about that, especially when we just saw it on the album, the CD release poster as well. What can you tell us about this painting that's on the cover?
This was you had to bring that up, didn't you?
It's beautiful.
So here's the funny thing.
Blame Joe.
Gosh, I don't know if I should even say this. I have a friend. Oh gosh. You got me. You've put me in a. Okay. Can I private message that person? The answer?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
So
just what you're comfortable with talking
so,
about. Man. It's fine.
I have an artist friend named Rob Nelson, and he was so generous to let me use some of his artwork. Rob's a great guy. I met him when I was playing in this really cool funk band at a bar in Dinkytown called The Downtime, which is gone now. But I met so many great people there, and played with JT quite a bit, and Brian Gallagher would show up and play with us, and Toby Marshall, who's on this record, I met him there. My good friend Casey O'Brien, a bass player who now lives in Asia, that really, and Doug Christensen, I met him there. Anyway, Rob was working at the bar, and so I collaborated with him. And thanks. Good question. I know that's so strange. And you know what? Sometimes you're just gonna have to not get the answer that you want, but
That is fine.
Well, like all abstract art, you can fill in the
abstract
blanks.
answers.
Fill in the blanks.
I tell you what, I'm
answers.
filling in all kinds of blanks here. But it is really beautiful.
It is. I think that is the main takeaway is people are appreciating the art itself,
Cool.
which is what the back catalog is all about: appreciating art and talking about it and probing artists with uncomfortable questions. That's what we're all about here at the back catalog. It's like 60 minutes here,
Well, I love it when I see, people actually talking to each other in the comments. The other thing this is about is the comments, people chiming in. We really appreciate it there. Amber, first time watching. Welcome to the show, Amber. It's really what it's all about. Is being
Hanging out.
together, right? And that's what music does. It brings us together. So
That's for sure. And the next song that you picked to feature from this record is the title track. Is there anything you want to share about this song before we take a listen, Chris?
I don't know. This one is kind of my favorite personally, in some ways. What can I tell folks about it? Yeah, no. It's got some great drumming by JT. And I remember I messed around a lot with kind of singing all my own harmonies. And that's kind of a cool effect. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
All right. Well, we'll let the music do the talking here. This is Chris Castino with Brazil here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Last night I booked a flight. It took all my might, but now I'm on seat 20B, and soon you'll be rid of me. I don't speak Portuguese, but the summer breeze keeps repeating this name, Maria. Sung like an aria, I floated in out of the day, pulling apart at the seams. I'll climb to your reaches and sleep on your beaches, Brazil. Restless, long traffic light, dogs barking through the night. It seems Brazil is indifferent to me, as lost as I want to be. Fortunes of an unread palm bring a fleeting calm to troubles too vast to see, like the ocean in front of me. I floated out of the day. Watch me floating, pulling apart at the seams. I'll climb to your reaches and sleep on your beaches, Brazil. Brazil. Strange how this new love song is beginning to sound like so long. Standing on top of the hill, there's nowhere but down in the red eye through the darkened sky. The old college tried, but now I'm on sea
Another
Nice.
song ending with the organ right there. That was Chris Castino with Brazil, the title track to his 2020 record, which we are revisiting today with Chris joining us live here.
That was
And
awesome track, man.
so awesome. And Amber says, I feel like I'm relaxing on a tropical beach in Brazil. And I was getting those vibes. And I have to ask, Chris, have you been to Brazil?
I have.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not long enough to really get into it. So I think we were in, oh gosh, well, we weren't in Rio. Oh, man, I can't remember. We were up north, but we were mostly on the kind of the oceanside cities. We didn't get into the interior much. But there was one of the reasons why that song, which is the title track, one of the things that I experienced in Brazil was, like we all have this sense of the exotic nature of Brazil and, the beautiful people there and the beaches and the sun. And when we got there, we were on a beach near the beach, and everything was gorgeous and bustling. And I took a walk one night, and I walked west away from the beach, and in about 15 blocks, everything changed. It was a completely different universe, and there was poverty and drugs and crime and poor people. So part of the concept of the tune is that we imagine things from what we look at pictures, and we say, oh, what a gorgeous place, and then we don't have the context, and so there really isn't a paradise where we can just go to and everything to forget all of our problems, because everybody's got problems. That go to the most beautiful beach in Brazil, and there's problems not far away, and that was what inspired the tune.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a beautiful, beautiful tune, and your singing is so gorgeous on it. The lead vocals and those harmony vocals. I did want to mention that I got, when I posted that you were going to be a guest on the show today on Twitter, our good friend Molly Mayer posted one of my favorite records. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that she was sharing her love. Yeah, and it comes from a real place. And again, if you are liking what you're hearing, this album is available on all the digital places, but also you can buy a physical copy of it.
Yes, highly recommended. It sounds great.
So good. And I'm really sad we're not going to get to more tunes. We're going to get to one more on today's show, but there's a whole lot more on this record. So you'll want to check it out in its full glory. And also, you can check out Chris Castino live. And I hear, Tony, that you might also be making an appearance at the show. Tell us about this. What's coming up?
Well, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about this? I was super excited when I found out about this bill. I know that you mentioned your kind of roots with the Grateful Dead music, and so many people got into acoustic American folk music, like string band music and bluegrass music, through that channel. And I wanted to have a whole nother conversation about that, but we'll suffice it to say, as Chris mentioned earlier, he has a bluegrass record out with the amazing Chicken Wire Empire out of Wisconsin backing him up, and it's a beautiful record. And you're teaming up with that band again and coming to Minneapolis here, right, going all the way across the river on February 10th. And do you want to just tell us a little bit about the show and what inspired there's kind of a twist here, I think, with what you guys are playing.
Yeah, the bluegrass record that Tony's talking about is called Fresh Pickles, and that's the one that I did with Chicken Wire Empire, and that was also, so that happened right after the Brazil, kind of misfire or whatever, the failure to launch, and then so during the pandemic, we decided, Jordan and some of the guys from that band decided to make this record, Fresh Pickles, and because it wasn't, I was having a hard time writing music during the lockdowns and stuff, and when my kids were home, and I
not
was
alone.
trying to teach them. I assumed that I would write a ton of tunes, and I just didn't. So anyway, we decided let's take some Big Woo songs and we'll make bluegrass versions of them, and it worked out. They arranged them so beautifully, and I ended up calling people I didn't know. Some people I knew, but I got some of the most amazing artists in bluegrass, living legends like Peter Rowan and Jerry Douglas, Tim O'Brien, who's been on your show. You know, Tim, Sam Bush. And then names from the jamband world too, like Keller Williams and Vince Herman. Adam Gruhl is on the record. Nick Forster and Tim are both on a tune together. And meeting there's so many of those, really great human beings in that group of people. And Peter Rowan is just such an he's such a mystic and wonderful guy. He and I both practice Buddhism, and so I was really drawn to him in a different and new way, and he's great, and I wanted to bring him in to this show that we're going to be doing with High 48s on February 10th at the Parkway Theater. So we almost got Peter Rowan, and it didn't work out. So we said, that's it. We're going to do songs from Old and in the Way and bring Peter with us in this fashion. And so the guys in Chicken Wire and I, we're doing music of Old and in the Way. And as Anthony said, I mean, that was a lot of people's first experience with bluegrass music was through that group. And
we're talking Peter Rowan and Jerry Garcia and Vassar Clemens, and I mean, it's just it's a who's who of that scene. And you know what? So you get to be Peter then, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'll take it. I'll try.
You channel Peter.
Try.
Awesome. And if folks who live around the Twin Cities or might find their way this way, you can get tickets and info at theparkwaytheater.com. And that's going to be a killer show. And Joni says, love the Parkway. And I agree. It's a great venue, and it's going to be a great night of music. So definitely check that out if you can. Right now, we're going to dive into the last song because we're running short on time here.
Where did this hour go, man?
I don't know
where
the hour went. But let's dig this last song, which is Beginner's Mind. Is there anything quick you want to say about this?
Well, Beginner's Mind is a Buddhist concept of not having any preconceived or solid ideas about the way things are, which is hard, but we try. And this has to do kind of like with how you use that in context of a relationship.
All right.
Excellent.
Let's give it a listen. Chris Castino, Beginner's Mind, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
They said our partnership will never last. They gave it 2 years tops, and it's in the past. A different picture in my head appears of the beginner's mind. So we fought, and we fought, our claws sunk to the bone just to hang on. I'd rather be lost than be stuck. I'd rather admit that it's luck. Learning your heart from scratch every time. Coming to this with the beginner's
All right, Chris Castino, Beginner's Mind from his 2020 album Brazil. And yes, big thanks to Pastor Tim for the kind words about the show. And if you are new to this show, the Back Catalog Listening Party, this is what we do every Friday at 4 p.m. We invite some of our favorite artists on to revisit their old records and talk about them and listen to them with us and talk about them. And we're so glad that so many of you joined us for this very special episode. And if you liked it, like it on the YouTubes, direct more bots to this guy, Chris Castino, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified of what's coming up next. Because as I said, we do this every week, and we've been doing it for many weeks now.
146 weeks.
Exactly.
That's a lot of weeks.
It is a lot of weeks, and we really appreciate you all being here. But most of all, we appreciate Chris for being
Yeah,
here.
thanks, Chris.
This has been such a treat, and I just wish we had another hour.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. There's so much to unpack with this record, and like we said earlier, if you don't have a physical copy or the high resolution version of it, you should pick it up. It sounds fantastic, and
So
you can
good.
pick it up at chriscastino.com.
That's right. And you can check out his tour dates, including that Parkway show and other things he has coming up as well at chriscastino.com. And we want to thank these folks who also keep the show going through their support via our Patreon. And if you want to get more involved in the show and get invited to special after parties, online events.
And know who's coming up. I think
And
Joe asked upcoming episodes. Well,
Exactly.
these guys know.
Yeah, they know because they get first sneak peek at who's coming up on the show. Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Jake, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, and David. And we are so grateful for your support. And most of all, we're really happy that you're all here with us because this is why we do this, to hang out with other music loving folks and ask the probing questions of our guests. So thank you, Chris, for being our
seriously,
guinea pig
Chris,
today.
this was a wonderful hour of music and stories, and yeah, it was really special. Perfect way to kick off my weekend this weekend. I needed that.
Oh, I
Yes.
appreciate you guys so much. It was really fun. Thank you.
Awesome.
All
Well, have
right.
a great weekend, everybody, and keep listening to music. And we'll see you back next Friday at 4 p.m. for another edition of Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right,
Cheers.
have a great weekend. Take care.